There is a monster in deep space, and it is pulling us closer every single second right now. As you sit there, you are moving at 1.3 million miles per hour towards a mysterious spot in the universe that scientists call the Great Attractor. It is not a black hole, and it is not a star. But it is something so heavy and so big that it is dragging our entire Milky Way galaxy and thousands of other galaxies along with it. Like a river, pulling leaves downstream for a long time. Nobody knew what this thing was or why we were moving so fast in that direction. And it scared a lot of astronomers because it broke all the rules of how we thought the universe worked to understand why this is happening. We have to look at where we live in the universe, but not just the Earth or the solar system, but the really big neighborhood called the cosmos. Usually, when we look up at the night sky, we see stars, and we think those stars are far away, but most of the naked eye stars are actually our neighbors right inside our own galaxy. Beyond those stars are other galaxies, and they are all moving away from each other because the universe is expanding. Think of a loaf of raisin bread rising in the oven, where the dough is space and the raisins are galaxies. And as the bread gets bigger, every raisin moves away from every other raisin. That is what should be happening everywhere. And for a long time, that is what we thought was happening everywhere. But then we looked closer at the speed of our own galaxy and found something strange. We are not just drifting apart from everyone else like we should be, but instead we possess a specific speed and direction towards one specific point in the sky. This movement is all called peculiar velocity, which is just a fancy way of saying we are moving in a way that does not match the normal flow of the universe. When scientists measured the cosmic microwave background, which is the heat left over from the Big Bang, they noticed that one side of the sky was a little bit hotter than the other side. This happens because of the Doppler effect, which is the same thing that makes a siren sound high-pitched when an ambulance comes towards you and low-pitched when it goes away in space. If you move towards the light, it looks bluer and hotter, and if you move away, it looks redder and colder. The map of the leftover heat showed a clear blue spot in one direction and a red spot in the other, which meant we were rushing towards something very fast. This was a huge puzzle because for us to be moving that fast, there has to be something with a massive amount of gravity pulling on us. Gravity is the only force in the universe that can reach across millions of light years and grab entire galaxies and drag them around. The bigger the object, the stronger the gravity. The Earth pulls the moon, and the sun pulls the Earth, and the black hole in the middle of our galaxy pulls the sun. But to pull the entire Milky Way galaxy and all our neighbors, we would need something with the mass of a quadrillion suns. That is one followed by 15 zeros. That is a number so big it is hard to even think about. So the astronomers pointed their telescopes at the spot where we are headed to see what this monster was. But they ran into a huge problem. We could not see anything. The spot we are moving towards is hiding behind the worst possible place it could be. It is right behind the center of our own galaxy. When you look at the night sky, you can see the band of the Milky Way, which is full of bright stars and dark clouds of dust and gas. The dust is very good at blocking light. It acts like a thick curtain that stops us from seeing what is outside our galaxy in that direction. Astronomers call this the Zone of Avoidance because for a long time, they just avoided looking there, since they could not see anything anyway. It was like trying to look through a brick wall. This made the mystery even scarier because we knew something huge was there, and we knew it was pulling us, but we were blind to it. It was like hearing a growl in a dark room, but not being able to turn on the lights. We had to wait for better technology to figure out what was hiding in the zone of avoidance. We needed eyes that could see through the dust. Regular light that we see with our eyes gets stopped by dust. but other kinds of light like radio waves and X-rays can go right through it. So scientists started scanning the Zone of Avoidance with radio telescopes. And what they found was shocking. It was not just empty space behind the curtain. It was a city of galaxies. They found a huge cluster of galaxies that they had never seen before because of the dust. They named it the Norma Cluster. It was big and heavy, and it was right in the path of where we are going. For a moment, they thought they had solved the puzzle and that the Norma Cluster was the Great Attractor. But when they did the math, it did not add up. The Norma Cluster was heavy, but it was not heavy enough to explain how fast we are moving. It was like finding a magnet that pulls a paperclip, but we are moving like we are being pulled by a junkyard crane. There had to be something else, something much bigger and much further away behind the Norma Cluster. The search continued, and we started to map the universe in a whole new way. Instead of just looking at where things are, we started looking at how things move. This is called cosmic flow. Imagine you are floating in the ocean, and you cannot see land, but you can feel the current pulling you. If you look at other things floating nearby, like logs or seaweed, you can see them moving too by watching how everything moves together. You can figure out where the current is going. Even if you cannot see the drain, that is what we did with galaxies. We looked at thousands of galaxies around us and measured their speeds and directions. We found that we are not alone in this journey. We are part of a giant group called the Local Group, which includes us and the Andromeda Galaxy. And about 50 smaller dwarf galaxies. Our whole group is moving together. But it gets bigger. Our local group is moving towards a huge cluster of galaxies called the Virgo Cluster. The Virgo Cluster is huge and has thousands of galaxies in it, and it is the downtown area of our part of the universe. But even the Virgo Cluster is being pulled. Everything in our neighborhood is streaming towards a point deep in the southern sky. As we mapped more and more galaxies, we realized that the Great Attractor was not just a single object. It is a focal point where everything is crashing together. It is the center of a supercluster. A supercluster is a massive group of galaxy clusters. We used to think that galaxy clusters were the biggest things in the universe, but then we realized that clusters group together to form superclusters. The Great Attractor is the gravitational center of the Laniakea Supercluster. Laniakea is a Hawaiian word that means immeasurable heaven, and it is the perfect name for our home. Laniakea is a giant web of light stretching across 500 million light years. It contains 100,000 galaxies, and the Milky Way is just a tiny speck on the edge of it. Think of Laniakea like a giant valley with mountains on the sides. If you drop a ball anywhere in the valley, it will roll down towards the bottom in space. The mountains are empty voids where there is not much matter, and the bottom of the valley is where the most gravity is. The Great Attractor is the bottom of the valley for us. Everything in Laniakea is sliding down Gravity Hill towards the Great Attractor. This explained a lot of the speed, but there was still a problem. Even Laniakea was not enough to explain the full speed of 1.3 million miles per hour. We were moving too fast. It was like we were falling down a hill. But something was also pushing us from behind. This led to one of the newest and strangest discoveries in astronomy. We found out that gravity is not the only player in the game. There is something called the dipole repeller. We looked at the map of the universe again and noticed that in the opposite direction of the Great Attractor, there was a huge area with almost no galaxies at all. It was a cosmic void. Voids are giant, empty spaces between the webs of galaxies because the void is empty. It has very little gravity. The Great Attractor has a lot of gravity. So what happens is a push and pull effect. The Great Attractor pulls us towards it, and the void behind us does not pull us at all in the tug-of-war of gravity. The side with no players loses badly. It feels like the empty space is pushing us away. But really, it is just that the dense space is pulling us so hard that the lack of pull from the other side acts like a repeller. So we are caught in a cosmic current flowing away from the empty void and crashing towards the Great Attractor. But the story gets even bigger. As our telescopes got better, we looked even past the Great Attractor. We wanted to know if that was the end of the line. It turns out the Great Attractor might just be a small bump on the way to something even more massive. Deep behind the Great Attractor lies the Shapley Supercluster. The Shapley Supercluster is a monster of monsters. It is the largest concentration of galaxies in our nearby universe. It makes the Great Attractor look small. It is over 650 million light-years away. It is so heavy that it is pulling the Great Attractor and us and everything else towards it. It is like a nesting doll of gravity. We are falling into the local group, which is falling into Virgo, which is falling into the Great Attractor, which is falling into the Shapley Supercluster. It seems like there is always a bigger fish. Now, you might be wondering, if we are moving so fast, are we going to crash? Are we going to smash into the Great Attractor and get destroyed? The answer is no. And the reason is the other great force of the universe, which is dark energy. While gravity is trying to pull everything together, dark energy is trying to push everything apart. Dark energy is the force that makes the universe expand. Right now, gravity is winning in our local neighborhood, which is why we are falling towards the Great Attractor. But on really large scales, dark energy is winning the space between us, and the Shapley Supercluster is stretching out. Even though we are moving towards it at millions of miles per hour, the ground we are running on is growing longer. The universe is expanding faster than we can catch up, eventually billions of years from now. The expansion of the universe will become so fast that it will break the chains of gravity. The Shapley Supercluster will move away from us, and the Great Attractor will fade into the distance. We will never reach the destination we have been rushing towards for our entire existence. We are running a race that we can never finish. This tells us something very important about our place in the universe. We are part of a giant living structure. The universe is not just a bunch of random rocks floating in the dark. It is a web. It flows. It has currents and rivers and valleys made of gravity. We are just a tiny boat on one of those rivers. The discovery of the Great Attractor changed how we see everything. We realized that our galaxy is not sitting still. It is on a voyage. We are travelers. And even though we will never reach the Great Attractor, just knowing it is there helps us understand where we are. It is like seeing a lighthouse in a storm. We might not go to the lighthouse, but seeing it tells us where the shore is. We are part of the Laniakea Supercluster, which is just one of millions of superclusters in the visible universe. And beyond that, who knows what is pulling them? Maybe there are even bigger structures out there that we cannot see yet because their light has not reached us. Maybe the whole universe is flowing towards something we cannot even imagine. But for now, we know that we are moving. We are rushing through the dark at speeds that would melt our minds if we could feel them. But we do not feel them. We just see the stars, and we feel the sun, and we live our lives. It is a reminder that there are forces at work that are much bigger than us, forces that have been working for 13 billion years, and we are just along for the ride. So the next time you look up at the night sky towards the constellation of Centaurus, remember that you are looking at the engine that drives our galaxy. You are looking at the Great Attractor. You cannot see it with your eyes, but you can know it is there. You can know that it is calling to us across the deep black ocean of space. It is a mystery that we solved, but it opened up even bigger mysteries. That is the best thing about science. Every answer is just a key to a bigger door. We found the Great Attractor, and then we found the Shapley Supercluster, and then we found the dipole repeller. We keep peeling back the layers of the onion, and the universe keeps getting bigger and stranger. It is a scary thought to think about being dragged into a giant crush of galaxies, but it is also beautiful. It means we are connected, we are not isolated, we are dancing with the Andromeda Galaxy and racing with the Virgo cluster and flowing with the Great Attractor. We are part of a cosmic flow that involves trillions of stars and planets. We are all made of the same stuff and we are all going to the same place. Well, at least we are trying to go there. The battle between gravity and dark energy will decide our fate. If gravity wins, everything crunches back together. If dark energy wins, everything rips apart right now. Dark energy seems to be taking the lead. But for the local clumps of matter, like us, gravity is still the boss. It holds us to the Earth, and it holds the Earth to the Sun, and it holds the Sun to the galaxy, and it holds the galaxy in the river flowing towards the Great Attractor. It is the glue that keeps the story together. Without this, pole stars would never form, and planets would never form, and we would not be here to wonder about it. So the Great Attractor is not just a monster in the dark. It is part of the reason we exist. It is part of the structure that allowed life to happen. It is the anchor of our home in the universe. We have mapped our home from the street view of the solar system to the city view of the galaxy, to the state view of the local group, and now the country view of Laniakea. And we are still drawing the map. We are still looking for the edges. We are still trying to see what is over the... We see what next hill, and that is what makes us human. We want to know what is pulling us. We want to know where we are going, and as long as we have telescopes and curious minds, we will keep looking, we will keep staring into the zone of avoidance and finding new wonders, because the universe is huge and we are small. But our minds can travel faster than light. We can go to the Great Attractor in our imaginations. Even if our bodies never get there, we can understand the forces that move the heavens. And that is a pretty big power for a tiny creature on a tiny rock. We are the part of the universe that woke up and started looking around. And what we see is that we are moving fast towards something huge. And that is the most exciting story there is. But to truly understand how big this story is, we need to step back and look at the tiny details that make it possible. Because when we talk about millions of miles per hour and millions of light years, the numbers stop making sense to our human brains. We have to break it down to understand just how strong this pull really is. Think about the gravity of the Earth right now. You are stuck to your chair because the Earth is pulling you down. The Earth is big, but compared to the Sun, it is just a grain of sand. The Sun is 1,000,000 times bigger than the Earth, and its gravity is so strong that it holds all the planets in place from Mercury to Pluto, and even comets that are far, far away. But the Sun is just one star in the Milky Way galaxy. There are at least 100 billion stars in our galaxy. Imagine pouring a bucket of sand on the beach, and every grain of sand is a star like our Sun. That is how big the Milky Way is. And all of that sand and all of those stars are being pulled by the Great Attractor. It takes a mind-boggling amount of power to move an entire galaxy. It is not like pulling a car with a rope. It is like trying to pull a whole continent with a piece of thread. But gravity has a secret weapon, and that secret weapon is time. Gravity is a weak force compared to other forces like magnetism. Think about a small fridge magnet. It can pick up a paperclip against the pull of the entire Earth, so a tiny magnet beats the whole planet. But gravity wins in the long run, because gravity never gives up. It reaches across infinite distances, and it just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling for billions of years over time. That tiny pull adds up to a massive speed. That is why we are moving so fast. It is because we have been falling towards the Great Attractor for billions of years. ever since our galaxy was born, we have been answering this call. So when you look at the map of the universe, you have to see it not as a static picture, but as a movie. Everything is in motion. Everything is alive with energy. The filaments of the cosmic web are like the veins of a giant body, and the galaxies are the blood cells flowing through them, pumping towards the heart, which is the Great Attractor. But what exactly is the Great Attractor made of? We know it has mass, but what kind of mass is it? Just normal matter like stars and gas? Or is it something else? Most scientists think that a lot of the mass in the Great Attractor is dark matter. Dark matter is another one of those huge mysteries that keeps astronomers up at night. We cannot see dark matter, and we cannot touch it. And it does not block light, and it does not reflect light. The only reason we know it is there is because of gravity. When we look at galaxies, they are spinning too fast. If they were only made of the visible stars, they would fly apart like a merry-go-round spinning too fast. But something is holding them together. Something heavy and invisible, that is dark matter. It acts like the glue of the universe, and the Great Attractor is likely a huge lump of this dark matter mixed with thousands of galaxies. It is a hill of invisible stuff that we are sliding down. This makes the whole thing even more spooky. We are being pulled by a ghost. We are being dragged across the universe by something we cannot see, towards a destination we cannot see, through a fog of dust that we cannot see through. It sounds like a horror movie, but it is actually a detective story, and the clues are written in the light of the stars every time we invent a better telescope. We find a new clue. Just a few decades ago, we did not even know other galaxies existed. We thought the Milky Way was the whole universe. Then Edwin Hubble showed us that there are other islands of stars out there. Then we found out they are moving away. Then we found out we are moving towards something specific. Our knowledge is exploding just like the universe. And as we learn more, we realize how connected we are to these distant places. You might think that a cluster of galaxies millions of light years away has nothing to do with you, but think about the elements in your body, the iron in your blood, and the calcium in your bones, and the oxygen in your lungs. Those atoms were made inside stars, giant stars that lived and died billions of years ago, when those stars exploded. They shot these elements out into space. Eventually, those elements came together to form the sun and the earth, but those stars were part of the cosmic flow too. They were moving and drifting along the currents of the cosmic web. So in a way, the atoms inside you have been traveling towards the Great Attractor for longer than the Earth has existed. You are a traveler of the universe, made of stardust and guided by gravity. It is a poetic way to look at physics, but it is true. The laws of physics are the rules of the road for our journey, and the more we understand these rules, the more we can appreciate the ride. Now let us go back to that idea of the dipole repeller, because it is one of the coolest things we have found recently. It changes how we think about movement. Usually we only think about being pulled, but in space being pushed is just as important. Imagine a crowded room where everyone is trying to get to the buffet table that is the Great Attractor, but on the other side of the room there is a terrible smell. That is the void. Everyone moves away from the smell and towards the food. The movement is caused by both things happening at once. The void is not actually pushing us with a force. It is just an absence of force. But the effect is the same. We are clearing out of the empty regions and piling up in the crowded regions. This creates walls of galaxies. These walls are the biggest structures in the universe, the Sloan Great Wall and the Boss Great Wall and the South Pole Wall. These are giant ribbons of galaxies, stretching for billions of light years, and they are all forming along the boundaries of these empty voids. It is like foam on the ocean. The bubbles are the voids, and the water between the bubbles is where the galaxies live, and the water is flowing. It is draining towards the massive drains, like the Shapley Supercluster. So when you picture the universe, do not picture a black box with white dots. Picture a bathtub full of bubbles and water swirling around. The Great Attractor is just one of the drains, and we are caught in the swirl. It makes you feel small, but it also makes you feel big, because you can comprehend it. Your brain, which weighs only a few pounds, can hold the map of the entire visible universe inside it. You can close your eyes and visualize the Laniakea Supercluster. You can see the red dot of the Milky Way and the yellow blob of the Virgo cluster and the mysterious dark center of the Great Attractor. You can fly through this map in your mind. That is the power of human intelligence. We are the universe trying to understand itself. And every time we find a new attractor or a new void, we understand a little bit more about ourselves. We understand that we are not the center of the universe. For a long time, humans thought the Earth was the center. Then we thought the sun was the center. Then we thought our galaxy was the center. Now we know there is no center. The universe is a web, and we are just on one strand of the web. But being on a strand is better than being alone. We are part of a neighborhood. The Andromeda Galaxy is our big sister, and she is falling towards us too. In about 4 billion years, the Milky Way and Andromeda will crash into each other. But it will not be a violent crash. It will be a dance. The stars are so far apart that they will mostly miss each other, but the gas clouds will smash together and create new stars. It will be a fireworks show that lasts for millions of years. And while we are dancing, with Andromeda, we will both continue to fall towards the Great Attractor. It is a dance inside a dance inside a dance. The intricate choreography of the cosmos is controlled by gravity, and we are just learning the steps. We have only been looking at the sky with telescopes for 400 years. That is a blink of an eye in cosmic time. Imagine what we will know in another 400 years. Maybe we will figure out what dark matter is. Maybe we will figure out what dark energy is. Maybe we will find a way to see through the zone of avoidance perfectly and take a picture of the Great Attractor. Maybe we will find out that the Shapley Supercluster is falling towards something even bigger. The possibility of discovery is infinite. As long as we keep asking questions, we will keep moving forward, both through space and through knowledge. The journey to the Great Attractor is a long one, and we will never finish it. But the journey of understanding is just beginning. And that is a journey we can all take together. Every book you read, and every video you watch, and every question you ask adds to the collective knowledge of our species. We are building a map of reality, and every fact is a new piece of the puzzle. The Great Attractor is a big piece of that puzzle, but it is not the last piece. There will always be another mystery, and that is a good thing. A universe without mysteries would be boring. We need the unknown to drive us. We need the dark spots on the map to make us build better ships and better telescopes. So let the Great Attractor pull us. Let it drag us at millions of miles per hour towards the unknown. We are ready for the ride. We are listening to the music of the spheres. And we are learning the song of gravity. It is a song that has been playing since the Big Bang, and it will keep playing until the end of time. And we are lucky enough to hear it. So take a moment to feel the speed. Feel the motion of the Earth spinning, and the Earth orbiting the Sun, and the Sun orbiting the galaxy, and the galaxy falling through the universe. You are not sitting still, you are flying. You are an astronaut on spaceship Earth. And the destination is a mystery, but the view is spectacular. And the company of stars is endless. This is our story. The story of the Great Attractor and the story of us. And it is the greatest story ever told, because it is true, and it is happening right now in the vast silence of space. The giant gears of gravity are turning, and we are moving with them inextricably bound to the fate of the heavens. Forever falling forever, seeking forever, wondering what lies in the heart of the Great Attractor.